are streaming live. Welcome everybody to our Tuesday broadcast in the Marketing and Sales Mastermind. Woohoo! That's how we are at 5 o'clock in the afternoon here in the Lavenia household.
Good stuff. Good to be here with everybody. Good to see you, Shannon, of course, right down the hall in the other wing of the mansion.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, you want to talk about something fun today?
We are going to talk about something fun today. We're going to talk about something that most people do not like to talk about until it's too late, or they're in a place where they're throwing their arms up and they're like, that's it, I'm done, right? And that is dealing with difficult clients. Not difficult spouses. We could talk about that too, but we're going to talk about difficult clients today.
5 ways to deal with difficult clients. And then we'll pass the collection basket at the end because you can all, give your offerings. But I want to start with something that, which is, I think, perhaps counterintuitive. All right. And that is the mindset of this. Now, as we're building our businesses, whatever business you happen to be in, hopefully you've developed an air of expectancy. In other words, you're expecting to succeed. You're expecting to grow your enterprise. And therefore you're expecting to bring in lots of customers, right? So the whole, are we live? Yes, good.
Yeah,
right.
We're live.
You were agreeing with me. Of course you are.
I was agreeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, which is interesting because I've seen where people are like, hey, I'm trying to figure out the business and this and that. And then they accidentally get a customer or something and they don't know like how to even process an order. So hopefully that's not you, right? You've got the mindset of, I'm building this, I'm scaling it up. I'm expecting, to have outrageous success.
That's right.
Unapologetically. Okay. So with that mindset comes the part of that experience is going to be a variety of customers, and they're not all created equal, right? You've got, of course, your great customers that they love you and you love them, and that's very easy to deal with. Okay. But I know for myself, having built several businesses and having dealt with the problems that come with success, right? Sure. Sometimes people are like, what do you mean problems with success? Well, would you like to look at my tax bill, right? So, I mean, we can, if you want to get negative about it, well, let's take a look at, what are the contraindications, if you will, to actually you reaching your goals. Okay. So one of those is going to be not all customers are going to be your dream customers. So part of building your mindset and that expectation that you're actually going to succeed at whatever you're doing should include preemptively how to deal with those barriers, those hurdles, in this case, those difficult customers. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the things that we can do right out of the gate. Shannon, was there anything else you wanted to add to the mindset factor of all this and why it's actually a good thing and a positive thing for you to have your attention on this in advance?
Yes. Okay. So, when we are launching a business or even scaling a business, we're just doing everything that we can to bring on clients. We want to bring on as many clients as we want to. In the beginning stages, we're not always as picky as we would be when you're, say, at the level that John and I are. And you can end up with this vast variety of people. And not all those people are going to have the same personalities, the same expectations, the same motivations, the same level of motivation, the same drive, right? So you can end up with a lot of misunderstandings that can accrue over time. And it can make it seem like, oh my gosh, this business is overwhelming, or working with clients is overwhelming. But there's actually very practical things that you can do in your business to set yourself up for when you do have a client that is more difficult, or you do have somebody that is going to need a little bit more nurturing, or you have someone that is, the other day I was talking to a client of ours who got communication from somebody, and the communication was very matter of fact, right? It was very matter of fact, very assumptive that they were going to do this. And it was, and my client was taken aback by it because he was like, I don't even have anything financial to gain from this. So it was really interesting. So what we're going to give you are some strategies that you can use to, one, set yourself up for how to deal with these people when they do come along. Two, how to avoid them, right? How to avoid the ones that could really be draining on your business. And just really practical applications that will help you have a higher level of, what do I want to say? Maneuverability, right? Flexibility. So you're kind of like a little bit like Gumby, where you can, bend and go with the flow. Was that his name, Gumby, the character that was like
the green, like
yeah, the green, yeah. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, Gumby, there you go. So much for hitting the gym. So here's point. We'll call it 0.0. All right, because this will be like a bonus, and we're not going to dive too deep into it. But the best way to obviously, deal with the difficult people is to refer them to your competition, right? So that would be very preemptive, right? You can sometimes, and like Shannon mentioned, you got a good amount of, business volume going on, and, great traffic coming into your offer. You can actually say no, right? I'm not selling you this, right? You might be better off with so-and-so, all right? But that really comes down to your ability to sort of, psychoanalyze, where this person's coming from, which is not something we could cover here in 20 minutes or whatever we're going to spend together, right? I've been studying personal development, psychology, and philosophy for 35 years. So big conversation. And I don't always get it right. So it's not like, here's the gospel according to John, and, he can decide about somebody, in an instant. No. Okay. We get it wrong all the time too. So,
That's right.
Yeah. So that was 0.0, no charge. Point number 1. Written agreements. I've heard it said that if it isn't written, it isn't true, right? So let me pepper this a little bit with, if you've got a business where you deal with like personal contacts, and hey, he's also a friend, he happens to, buy my stuff. I don't want to shove a contract in somebody's face. Understand, by definition, a contract is an agreement, written or oral. So what I'm telling you to do is to make known on a document, here is what we shall deliver. Here are the expectations and the responsibilities, right? Especially in, my goodness, we've got a lot of Americans watching, right? This is the most litigious country on the planet, right? So CYA, right? Cover your ass and make things known, not just for your own coverage, okay, but also there people can see it, right, Shannon? Like, I remember there was this experiment done where they had people go into the store, and the staff at the store was like, please do or don't do this certain thing, right? And then people weren't complying with the oral request, okay? But then they made the sign, and on the sign it said the same request, right? The same instruction, and suddenly they got all this compliance out of it because it's written. There's the document. So it's not me and my personality, which you may or may not like. It is the truth. There it is on the wall. What do you think about all this, Shannon?
So in my coaching program, our coaching program, one of the things that we hammer on quite a bit is the power of written contracts. Especially, we own a branding and marketing agency. And with something like that, you have a lot of deliverables, right? There's things that you could do for somebody that could stack up and stack up and stack up and stack up. So in our contracts, we're very specific about what we're delivering, right down to the nitty gritty, right? So if we say we're delivering 2 pages in a funnel and the client wants 3 pages, then we look at that and say, is that something we're going to do? Is that something we need to charge for? And it's very clearly written. The other thing is, whenever there is an upset, we've been around 20 years, and it's been very rare that we've had a conflict with a client. When we have, we're always able to pull up the contract and say, hey, here's what we agreed to, here's what you paid for, here's what we're delivering. And almost always it's just some misunderstanding that the client had about what they thought they were getting, which was beyond the scope of the project. And then we're able to say, okay, well, we can add an addendum, we can add on to that. And it becomes a very smooth process, right? On the other side, I've had people that have come to us who have not operated with contracts, and they've been in all kinds of problems, chargebacks, lawsuits, things that come because you're not protecting yourself. Particularly like if you're a coach and you have a coaching program, you want to make sure that you have a contract that covers things like confidentiality, especially if you're in a group coaching program, right? And there's a group of people that are there. You want to make sure that you're covering confidentiality. You want to make sure you're covering your assets that you're giving to people. So having these agreements in place can really be a powerful way of keeping the relationship very positive.
Mm-hmm. Great stuff.
That's right.
Great tip, Shannon. Awesome stuff there, which brings us to the second item, number 2, which is what I'll call the holy grail of objectivity. All right. Mm-hmm. So right now we're talking about difficult clients. Okay. So difficult. Well, who determines that? Right. That's subjective, right? That's your opinions and your thoughts about it, right? That's that we can call that subjective. Okay. Mm-hmm. What would be the opposite? Objective, objects, stuff, things that don't require a whole lot of thinking or evaluation. So, and this is something therapeutic that everybody can do. Let's say you are dealing with difficulties, not just a difficult client or whatever, but anything, right? Where you're just in the, in the mindset of it all, or the difficulties and subjective problems and trying to make decisions and whatever. A really good thing to do would be to extricate yourself from that. Go take a walk, look at the, listen to the birds and look at the friggin' grass and stuff that requires no evaluation. Objects, right? One way that I do this every day is, I exercise. I go to the gym, or Shannon got one of these awesome, bikes that has like, the mountain scenes, and you get to ride with the excellent, pro level biker. And so we're like doing the bicycling thing, but that's like, look at the mountains, man, do the thing, or touch metal, right? There's no thinking about that. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is you want to balance subjectivity with objectivity. And one thing you could do in present time, if you're dealing with someone who's difficult to communicate with, and this may sound like a weird, wacky sort of exercise, but you can practice on your spouse. It's kind of fun. So when they're talking, obviously you're interpreting the words, and you're adding whatever subjective meanings you have to the way they're communicating with you. Keep in mind, most of communication is physiology. It's voice inflections, it's body language. It's not just the words. You know what I mean, right? I'll give you an example. What do you want versus what do you want? Same exact words. Totally different.
Totally different.
Totally different. Okay. So could you hear the words, but not listen to them? Just as an exercise, try it on for 30 seconds. It's not easy. Okay. But here's somebody talking, and all you're doing is objectively hearing the sounds, the noises. I suppose there's a mouth moving, there's noises, but not even picking up the meanings. It's kind of a weird thing to do, but, and you can't do it for long because, otherwise you're going to be like, yeah, oh, okay. And, but interestingly, you can also do that by just suspending any judgment or reactivity to it, just by being present with the sounds that are coming out of this person who might be griping at you or something, and just not owning it. You see, we can only receive that which we're in resonance with, like radio frequencies, right? So if I'm up here and they're down here, it kind of doesn't affect me. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Shannon, anything else on that?
Well, I think that brings us right into our third point, which is to apply diplomacy, not emotion. And trust me, I learned this the hard way. So if I can save you the demoralizing effect of, being overly emotional about stuff and then having to kind of swallow your pride and own your stuff, then let me help you with that. So, there are going to be times when you have people who on the other side of the computer or the phone or the email or anything are going to send you just nasty communication. And you'll get communication about all the things you did wrong, how you're not right, how they're justified in their complaints, and how it's blah, 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 right? And at that moment, the best thing you can do is just leave it alone. Get up, go for a walk, take a break, and practice a bit of diplomacy, right? So my take on those types of things is, one, the person probably has another upset on top of whatever they're experiencing with me or us that really probably has nothing to do with us, especially if it's something really nasty or really heated. So I want to figure out what's going on with the person just from a genuine point of care. And then two, I want to figure out what occurred that, created such an upset. And every time that I've done that and I've stepped away, I've let it sit for a little bit, and then I've contacted the person and I've said, I got your communication. I read it through. I totally understand what you're saying, and I'd like to talk this out. Are you open to a conversation? And then when I start the conversation, I usually start with some point of admiration, right? You look beautiful today. I love your background. Is that a new necklace? Something that kind of creates a little bit of an easier opening for us. And then I listen and I try to understand exactly what they're talking about. And if there's something that I can fix or repair from our end, I do. But then I also will ask, is there anything else going on in your life right now that's upsetting? And typically it's like, I've heard all kinds of wild things, right? All kinds of wild things. And I'm just the person that they, decided to spew whatever it was at. And because I listened to them, in most of those cases, I've ended up with clients for life, not just clients for life, but clients that have referred us hundreds of thousands of dollars of business, right? Clients who seemed like it was an end of the road situation because something came through, and out of it came tons of referrals, because I actually took time to not be on the defensive, but really just to communicate with the person and be as diplomatic as possible. Not to say that I'm just going to, take a left and right jab to the jaw if it's coming at me, whatever. But, if the person is obviously angry, upset, in pain, frustrated, then I can take the time to listen to what they have to say. And just like what John was saying, kind of just listen and not have it be about me, what they're saying, but have it be about whatever their experience is, right? They've experienced it differently. And the best way that I can explain this is, if you've ever gone to a movie with someone and you walk out of that movie and you're like, that was the greatest movie I have ever seen. And then the other person is like, that movie was total shit. I hate that movie, right? You both had the same experience, but you have two totally different viewpoints. So that can happen in business too. You can both be in the same business relationship and someone else can have a totally different viewpoint. And when you dig into it, it could be, maybe you were at the Lion King and you were like, oh, it was great. And the person next to you is like, the dad died and my dad died when I was 6 and it was horrible. And I can't, so you just never know until you listen.
Let me chime in on this. In In 1910, Wallace Wattles wrote the book, The Science of Getting Rich. And in that book, one of the chapters, he talks about the impression of increase. And that is the idea that everyone who confronts you in life leaves you better than they found you, right? In other words, you're about lifting people up. You're the advancing man, the advancing woman, and you give the impression of increase wherever you go. This is very good for business. Again, the title of the book was The Science of Getting Rich. This was one of the instructions that he gave us. Read the book. It's really good. So in that way, if you remember your purpose, so it's my purpose to uplift and empower and cause increase for people, right? Then it's not so much, it doesn't stick to you. Once again, you get to remain objective by degree. Okay, you get to remain objective and keep focused on purpose and not, whatever sideways emotions or whatever. Now, Shannon, you may not give yourself enough credit because you're very gracious. Okay, so you're talking about diplomacy. And I just pulled up the dictionary and the source real quick. So the second definition of diplomacy is the art of dealing with people in a sensitive and effective way. So you're having an effect. You're not going to the effect. You are still remaining causative in that communication rather than being the effect, right? So you're looking to have an effect, to cause an effect, right? That means you yourself need to have a bit of altitude there. And look, if diplomacy doesn't work as a word for you, here's what it says in the thesaurus. All right. So tact, tactfulness, sensitivity, discretion, subtlety, finesse, delicacy, judiciousness, discernment, prudence, which means having, attention on what's going to happen in the future, cleverness, skill, politeness, thoughtfulness, understanding, care, soft skills. Okay. So there you go. Pick the words that are best for you. And then just remember those when you're confronted with that sort of a situation, which brings us to the next item. All right. So Shannon, you mentioned go ahead and get a little distance and then be diplomatic. But at the same time, we're not hiding under a rock, are we? Right?
No. So you don't want to hide from it. One of the things that creates things like chargebacks, people wanting to, spew about you on the internet and write bad reviews and all that kind of stuff is when there's a big communication lapse, right? Someone's communicating to you and the other person's hiding from it because they don't want to deal with it, right? They don't want to deal with the communication. And I get it. It's, when a nasty communication comes in or an angry client or something like that, the last thing you want to do is sit there and be singing Kumbaya and call the person and have them spew all over you. I totally get it. But at the same time, this is your business. And when you think about it, too many chargebacks can shut down your merchant services. Too many bad reviews can slow your sales. Too many complaints in Facebook groups can bomb your company. So you really have to look at it like, is that little bit of a tongue lashing going to be worse than the other things? I know for me, if I paid for something and I'm not being serviced for what I paid for, and I'm trying to communicate with that company and they're not communicating back, it's very frustrating, especially for very successful people, right? We don't have time to waste. We want things done very quickly. We're very demanding. It just is what it is. So when you're dealing with high profile people, especially if you're a high ticket coach or you're doing high ticket sales or you've got a high ticket agency and you're dealing with powerful people who are cashed up, who do have money, they expect a higher level of service and they expect instant communication, right? So you have to make sure that you do that, but you don't want to hide from it. Now, the other side of that, John, I'll let you cover this part because I've been very guilty of this in the past.
Okay. Right. So you want to communicate, but again, you want to do it with a bit of diplomacy, right? So let's say, and by the way, just as a quick aside, we're blessed that we love our customers, right? We work with really awesome people. So having so having like these difficult situations, like I said before in point zero was, preemptively don't get into those situations. Okay. But if you did, okay, and we have been there, let's say you got an email which when people default to email, that's an indicator, right? So, hey, they're not returning my call. They just sent me a scathing email. Okay, well, don't you go ahead and send them a scathing longer email back. Don't do that. In fact, we had a situation once, I won't say who, but it's someone else who hosts sessions like this one that we're on right now. And we had, and she wrote this book of an email, and it was incendiary, like nukes going off. And I was like, don't you click that send button. Don't click send. You can write whatever you want, just don't click send. And her finger was right there on the mouse. She clicked it. No, she clicked it. So
Who are you talking about? I have no idea.
So part of being causative, right, and above just, the situation and not in the mud with it, is giving yourself enough space to come have a fresh read of that email before you click send, or give it to your spouse or partner or someone to say, hey, go ahead and proofread this for me. All right, what do you think of that? So
yeah, I mean, I have John read my emails. I had him read an email today before I sent it. And I, that's just my modus operandus now, because if I am in a situation where I have to send a communication that's direct or explanatory, I also want to make sure that it doesn't sound like I'm being bitchy. And, there's times when you're dealing with clients that you have to refer back to the contract, or you have to, be specific about things. And I don't want to sound accusatory or unappreciative or any of that. So I do have John review my emails. So now you know that that's what I do. And if I was in a larger company, and I've done corporate consulting with many big companies, one of the policies that we always put in place is when an executive is going to send a communication, it needs to be reviewed, typically by their assistant, or if they're sending it out to the whole company, it would need to be reviewed by HR first. Very important. Because, and how many times have we seen the news pop up with some email that some executive at some big company sent out that was, biased or insulting or sexist or something else, and now they're in hot water, right? So it's always good to have anything that's written that could be interpreted or taken in a different way, reviewed. Personally, I just like to get on Zoom or a phone call, because I feel like when you're face to face with somebody, it's a lot easier to resolve any type of conflict.
right, but we're talking about when people resort to email, which is a downgrade in communication lines, right? I mean, in my hierarchy, you've got, face to face, like in person, and then like, Zoom and
or Messenger.
Right.
People will send me stuff in Messenger when they have my cell phone number.
Hold on a second, right? I'm doing my hierarchy here, right? So
I'm sorry. Did I skip a gradient there?
Yeah, and then there's like, Zoom, like we're kind of face to face right now using technology, and then there's like a phone call, and then there would be like text messaging and Telegram, Skype, whatever. And then, down below that, you've got like, carrier pigeon, smoke signals, right? And then like interpretive dance is down there. And then below all that would be like email.
Yeah. Well, and typically when somebody sends me an email, that is like
interpretive dance.
Right. I like the interpretive dance.
I like that communication method.
You do?
Yeah. But here's the thing.
We're not going to go deep into that, because that could just go completely left field.
Here's the thing. When you send the email, it's like pressing the trigger on a gun, right? The bullet is gone. You can never get the bullet back.
That's right.
So make a good decision on that. All right. So.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I will say about that is just to circle back to the importance of contracts. I think in the 20 years that we've been in business, I've gotten 3 really intense emails, and 2 of those people attempted a chargeback on large purchases. And because I had extremely well-written contracts and records of everything, we won the cases in both of those instances. So again, the importance of contracts.
Mhm.
Okay,
Which
should
brings
we
us to the
roll?
final point. But before we get to the final point, let's acknowledge Jennifer Dawn, who's awesome.
Jennifer.
And Jennifer says that you're awesome. So thanks for noticing, Jennifer. That,
Thank
yes,
you.
she is. That's great. And number 5.
Okay, number 5. This one I think is a little hard sometimes.
Mhm.
This one is really hard. And we work with our clients on this a lot because, you know, we work with our clients to establish organization in their businesses to scale, right? And part of organization isn't like, oh, I'm going to put this pen here and I'm going to put this pen there, right? It's really about what are the flows in your business? What policies have you established for yourself? What are your standard operating procedures? What are your sales pipelines, right? These are important. And this falls in that. This is create clearly established boundaries. Clearly established boundaries. And there's a second part to that, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Let's talk about the boundaries first, right?
Mhm.
Like, what are some of the boundaries that you could establish in your business? Well, if you're a coach and you're scaling up, coaches communicate, right? Like we are communicating with our clients. So we establish protocols of where do we get our communication? What do you give to us? What do we give back to you? What's in the coaching program? What do our different staff? Our coaching program's a little bit different than other people's because we have multiple coaches that work with our clients on multiple things. So we have a tech coach that helps with implementation. We have an accountability coach that works with giving our members a kick in the butt, which is why people make it through our program and get a result, right? So we establish those boundaries clearly right out of the gate. And that helps us really have, I mean, it's a certain level of respect, right? So we don't have clients messaging us stuff on Sunday afternoon, expecting us to get back to them in an hour, right? Sunday is a family day. That's what we're doing. And when you communicate those boundaries and you make the policies for yourself first, right? You establish the policy, then you communicate it clearly, everybody can be on the same page, right? If you don't establish it for yourself first, 1, you're going to be exhausted. 2, you're going to be burnt out. 3, you're going to get really pissed off at your clients because you're going to be like, it's Saturday night. Why are you communicating with me? Probably because you didn't tell them that you don't work on Saturday night and they're still working a full-time job. And Saturday night is the time that they have to work on their business, right? What say you?
Right. So you can't be all things to all people. In fact, that's a great way to have disorder in your life, right?
That's right.
So since all success is orderly, let's go ahead and put in policies. Let's make those known. And those are for whose benefit? It's for everyone's benefit, right? So now I know when I'm on, when I'm off, and I can fulfill the expectations that I've gone ahead and offered to the people who do want to get in communication with me. But look, you think of some of the famous people. Hey, I'd like to talk to Tom Cruise or Donald Trump or Oprah Winfrey or whatever. Yeah, okay. Well, you're going to go through some communication lines, gatekeepers and whatever, to get in touch with those kinds of people. Okay, so it's an amateurish mistake to not have those boundaries aforethought, right? Again, assuming you expect to be successful, you're going to be dealing with multiple people. Okay, well then let's go ahead and create some policies for communication. All right, and everybody's going to be happier. So there you go, Shannon.
Yeah. And the other half of point number 5 is use an intermediary if you can. So if you find that your business has grown to a certain level where there's so much communication coming at you that it's now taking you out of your zone of genius, taking you off of your post as the CEO of your company, causing you stress, overwhelm, you can't get away from your phone, then that's the time that you should have somebody working with you that can handle a lot of that communication. So in our business, we have a team of people. We have a wonderful, wonderful person who works with us in our director of success. Her name is Claire, and she handles a lot of that incoming communication. And she also handles all of the outgoing communication, the reminders, the, check-ins with people, getting people to the calls, all of that. So that's not even something that's in my universe, so to say, my realm of thinking or, mind or whatever you want to call it. That's not even something I think about on a day-to-day basis because we have somebody on a post that does that. As your company gets bigger, you might need a customer service person or a group manager, right? And that's something we work with in our program to help people put a hiring plan together so they know who they need to hire first. That's going to give them some relief and some growth and help them delegate some of those mindless tasks that they don't need to be involved with.
Great stuff. Wow. Now
Pretty
I feel
good,
like
right?
I need some difficult customers so I can practice this stuff. Yeah, they're all awesome.
I could practice being difficult if you'd like.
Yeah. Okay. No, but quite enough of that. Well, thank you guys. Hey, look, give us a comment or questions and whatever. Let us know that this, this did something for you. You got value out of this. And of course, we're going to get back together next week, same bat time. But I think the bottom line here is that there's no need to, throw up your hands in a state of, defeat or apathy or overwhelm or whatever, just because you've got a temporary difficulty that you're dealing with. So again, the best way is to be preemptive on that, right? You don't have to enroll every single customer every single time, right? But if you do, experience difficulties, and like Shannon said, I think it was point number 3 or whatever, the the idea that somebody was just having a bad day, they're dealing with a family crisis or something, and they lashed out at you, right? So that's no need to condemn the entire relationship or the entire enterprise that you're in. Look, this is the kind of customers I get. So stay away from broad generalities like that. Keep stuff compartmentalized, keep your own sanity intact, right? And remain a bit more objective about it. And you'll do quite well. Thank you, Shannon. This was awesome.
This was a blast. I was just taking a little notes here in our Facebook group. Absolutely a blast. I put a link also to schedule a call if you'd like to sit with us and have us look at your business and see how we could help. We would love to do that. So you can find the link in the comments there as well. And of course, we're here every Tuesday at 5 p.m. And if you have a special topic that you'd love for us to talk about, we're happy to do that. Just put that in the comments too. And of course, if you're here on the replay, let us know as well by saying replay or hi or hello or something like that. We do look for your comments to see you there. And lastly, John mentioned the Science of Getting Rich, and we did load that into the files section of the group. So there is a free PDF download of the Science of Getting Rich. It's an awesome book. You can find it right in there. So go ahead and check that out. All right, everybody.
Good times. We'll see you next time. Have a good day.